Welcome back to the Beyond Packaging podcast. We're your hosts, Laura Foti.
Still keep me around, Matthew Wright.
Matthew, I had to wrangle you for this one. I said, I'm pretty sure he's going to join.
I actually did that on purpose to make sure you really wanted me on the podcast today. So
Well, we're glad to have you. Our guest today is a longtime friend and someone who we wanted to have as a guest for a while now, Greg Batt of Clemson University. Greg, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we love the Clemson gear.
Thanks.
Way to represent.
Thanks.
Greg, for those of you who don't know, is a professor in the Food, Nutrition, and Packaging Sciences Department at Clemson University and the director of the Packaging Science Program. He spends his time teaching, conducting research, and providing industry service, all focused on protective packaging dynamics. He also directs the Clemson Packaging Dynamics Laboratory and co-directs the Clemson Headgear Impact Performance Chip Laboratory. That's awesome. I mean, Greg, can you give us a brief overview of your role, your work, and your career journey at Clemson?
Sure, Laura. I mean, the brief part, it's my dream job. You know, they allow me to, I get the opportunity to work with some of the best and brightest students, packaging science students in the country, and so, mentioned teaching and research and providing service to industry in this area of packaging dynamics. And I come at it from the background of a mechanical engineer, did my undergrad in mechanical engineering, and then went to industry for various industries for 6, 7 years, and then back into academia, got a master's degree in packaging science, gave me the opportunity to teach. I fell in love with it and realized I need to get a PhD to stay in this business. And so got a PhD in mechanical engineering, and I get to apply those tools and techniques kind of in this space of protective packaging design and packaging dynamics.
Oh, that's awesome. I think so often for consumers, people think of packaging as the labels and the graphics and the pretty stuff, which is all important and certainly an aspect of packaging, but there's so much more. I mean, that's why it's engineering, right? I mean, there is so much more that goes beyond what you see on a shelf. It's all that behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Well, to Greg's point, I've toured the campus. It's amazing, and you guys have just incredible different labs and different testing centers. And it is, to your point, a dream job. It's a dream environment if you're a packaging person to be around your labs and your program.
Yeah, thank you.
One of the questions we love to start out on is, Greg, you're in this interesting intersection of industry and academia and the next generation. What trends are you excited about that you're seeing other folks engage in?
One that comes to mind, I just saw last week at Play, and I know we talk a lot on the daily about artificial intelligence, AI. And we have this senior capstone design course that we run every semester with our students. We have 4 teams running this semester, and each of them are working on a different design for an industry product. And one of the teams, so last week was their presentation. We have kind of stage gate presentations to the faculty. So last week they just finished their brainstorming phase. And, typically what we're used to seeing is little hand sketches on the back of napkins and this kind of thing. And this one group had 11 different concepts that they had boiled down to, that they had brainstormed down to, that were beautifully illustrated. I mean, with graphics and the products and their the configurations, their package configuration. And at the end of the presentation, I was like, guys, this was taking hours. How did you do this? I said, well, we just uploaded all of our back of the napkin hand sketches into ChatGPT. We fed it with what we wanted, and it generated these for us. I was blown away. I mean, and this is commonplace for these guys, right? I wouldn't even thought of doing that. And these guys are already using this tool and blowing me away. I'm supposed to be one teaching the class.
Well, I think that's really interesting, Greg, because when I often talk to university professors, everyone in academia is afraid of like the cheating, right? That you're just going to upload all the questions that you're getting and AI is going to do it for you. But I do think there's a use case for AI where you're doing your projects differently. And I think that's a great example. What's wrong with having a better prototype? And in the future, this is how it's going to be done in the industry, right? You're going to be prompting a tool to design this for you, even if you're a designer using the tool as your assistant. And so I think it's awesome that you're allowing that and encouraging that, because this is, I think, the future of how things are going to go to some degree.
You're exactly right, Laura. I mean, very quickly, and I say quickly, over the last couple of years, that conversation on campus among faculty with AI was originally, this is kind of the enemy. This is, as you said, we're concerned about plagiarism. We're concerned about students using this to complete their projects. And now the conversation is, how can we better incorporate this into our classes, where we actually are providing assignments where the students have to use this stuff. Right. And are getting experience with it.
Yeah, that's a good segue into our next question. How are you preparing your students for the packaging needs of tomorrow?
Preparing our students for the packaging needs of tomorrow. I talk to my students about, first day of class, I'll tell them, listen, let's talk about expectations. One expectation you should have is that I'm not going to teach you everything you need to know to do your job. Right? What we're going to do here is you're going to learn to use some tools, and you're going to learn some techniques and methods that you're going to use to actually go out and learn to do your job and do your job. And so we're helping you here to build a toolbox, and give you tools to use and kind of take into your careers. So I think that's probably what I would.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I was thinking through that. We talk a lot about academia and the AI and the future and all those topics. And I think one of the things interesting, what I'm noticing, and Greg, I want your thoughts on this, is preparing them for application of business needs. It's in doing that, and then the soft skills, because everybody's level of available intelligence is rising kind of equally.
That's right.
So really the differentiators will be how they take this data, how they make application for the companies that they're working for, and how really the soft skills will help them sell those values into the company. So they're a little bit different, I think, going forward. What are your thoughts on those areas?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Matthew, because that's really in my conversation with companies, it's one of the value propositions that I've got for them as they consider hiring students out of these packaging programs, is that change within your organization, from my experience, most often doesn't come from the top down. It's coming from the young talent that you're bringing into your organization that knows how to use some of these new tools and methods and techniques, and really can accelerate change in the way that your organization does what it does. Right. And so, some companies get that and they invest in that. Others are slower. I think they're going to have to one day come to realize that.
Yeah, I think the skill sets are changing. Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of one of my favorite folks in the industry, Jan Tharp, former CEO of Bumblebee Seafoods, trained packaging engineer. She talked about hiring the next generation and then giving them the right tools, because she knew how important it was to attract that talent, because they were going to be the ones to ultimately drive the step change in her business. And so I'm so excited to hear that you're really equipping students with those methods and strategies, because those are timeless, right? The materials are going to change. The equipment is certainly going to change. But if you have the right, training and how to approach problem solving, especially for packaging, I think those skills are relatively timeless. Another big topic is sustainability. Mm-hmm. That's changed tremendously, even just in my career, Greg. I remember when I was at GE, we had a corporate social responsibility report, and we did it because we were thought leaders. Now people are doing it because they have to be submitting EPR reporting, PPWR, UK plastics tax, and so forth. How are you preparing for students to tackle sustainability, not just in a material term, but in a compliance aspect?
Compliance, yeah, I'm going to get to that one because that's a big one. But the I'll tell you, in my classroom, there's 10 of us at Clemson that are teaching this packaging science program. Each of us have a little bit different take because we represent kind of different parts of this industry, this broad industry of packaging. But in my area of protective packaging, a change that I've seen, and we bring this into the classroom, if we go all the way back to 2005, 2006, Walmart scorecard comes out, and very quickly the industry is reduce efficiency. We need to be efficient with packaging. And they were right. And we spent over a decade doing that. You couple that with the growing complexity of a distribution environment, where now instead of just taking, products that once sold on a shelf are being delivered to your doorstep, right? And all of the inputs that those products now see is different than it was a decade, 2 decades ago. So we're seeing that rate of change. Those two together have resulted in now we've got damaged products, brand new products that are going into landfills. And so this focus. So in my classroom, a lot of our conversation is yes, efficiency of packaging, but it's also the ethic. We need to focus on the efficacy. We got to make sure it's doing its job. It can be, doesn't matter how biodegradable or how much PCR is in this material if it doesn't deliver the product safely to the end consumer.
I think that's spot on. I mean, there has been this movement of less packaging, but to your point, if you're then getting breakage, it defeats the purpose.
That's right.
Because is it actually more sustainable to have something break and then you're throwing that in a landfill and you're resending that product? And if you look at the whole life cycle analysis or life cycle assessment of that, you're sending a truck again, you're getting more packaging. I mean, you're doing so many repetitive tasks that could have been avoided if you had done it right the first time.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really exciting to that all those points about the students coming into business today. I remember getting into business, so we were told, hey, wait your time. We know what we're doing. We've been doing this a long time. I think the companies and people around these people coming out of your program and other programs are thirsting for help. Thirsting for help to try to challenge or work through these challenges, sustainability, how we deal with different types of products and packaging. So I think they're going to come into a really open environment, and I think it's really exciting times for your students.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you see, Greg, global events impacting packaging? You talked a little bit about, the global nature of packaging today, and then how will students need to adapt to this? I mean, some of our employees are trained packaging students, and they've lived in China for internships and have traveled all over. And so it is different than I think packaging of 20 years ago, even.
No, absolutely. Laura, there's a lot we could talk about there with when you think about global trends and geopolitical conflicts and what does that mean for scarcity of goods and innovations and in materials and processes and production. One that I would highlight, and I actually just was speaking with a group of students last week about this, it was that capstone design group. These guys their next step is into industry. And I was talking about these guys about kind of two things that I'm seeing at a level that I haven't seen yet in my career, and it's around this topic of sustainability. But we have government regulations on one hand, and we've got company commitments or company targets that are being set on the other hand. And these students are going right into their careers, are going to take them right into the crosshairs of both of these and the pressures in a landscape that's changing so quickly. And so I was telling these guys, gone is the day when you are a student for 4 years and get your degree and then go into industry and use that and do your job. And I was telling these guys, you're signing on, you're students for life.
Right.
Like this education is not going to end with you getting your degree, your piece of paper, and walking out the door. It's just beginning for you because this landscape's changing so quickly. You've got to stay ahead of this, or at least try and keep up with this.
Well, it's funny you say that, Greg. This is something we think about a lot at Specright because we're so fortunate to partner with so many universities, Clemson included, where we're getting your students hands-on access to the software. So they're thinking about specs, they're thinking about data, which is so important to sustainability. But then we've got all these people who've been in industry 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. They need to know how to use technology to do their jobs. They didn't have this software when they were in college. And so one of the things we're thinking about is how do we create education programs for folks that have been out of industry? And I think that's just such an interesting challenge is packaging, I think has really not incorporated the software aspect as much previously. And a lot of the professionals need those skills. Like they don't know how to analyze data or build reports. And that's critical when it comes to this. So I think that approach of lifelong student is just spot on. And we see it every day.
That's great.
How can we all be inspired by the next generation of packaging engineers? I think someone like Matthew's been in it for a while now. I know he's excited every day, but what do the students bring to you that gives you energy?
I draw a lot of inspiration from these guys. Some of it causes me gray hairs, and some of it I think honestly keeps me young. It's their energy, their passion, yeah, this is a crazy idea, but they get to say yes to that at age 20 and 21 years old. But one of the things that really inspires me is seeing this class of students coming in now. They are pre-wired for global responsibility in a way that I listen, I'm right in the middle of Gen X, and my generation I've had to learn this way of thinking. And these guys are coming in the door already wired for this, and sustainability is second nature for them. So where's the ceiling for these guys? I'm having to learn these things. They already know. They come in with that. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's such an exciting environment. I've been to Clemson a few times, and it's just the whole atmosphere is great. The learning is great. The energy is great. I think that, again, they're just faced with a really good opportunity to come in and help these industries, as Laura said, modernize, digitize, use technology. And you see that enthusiasm in most of your students.
Yeah, that's great.
And Greg, for Clemson alums who are listening, for maybe future Clemson packaging students, can you talk a little bit about the partnership with Specright and kind of the value you see for your students and your alumni community?
Yeah, absolutely. Working with Specright's been great. We've had the software incorporated into our classes for several years now, in a couple of our classes. But that's as Specright has added more functionality and tools, it's found its way into more. We now teach this in 4 different required classes. So our students are seeing this particular tool a number of different ways. And then beyond that, Specright's partnership on helping support kind of renovation of a lab that we have, our prototyping lab, has really been a blessing to the program and certainly to our students. I describe Specright as this is a moment ago I talked about companies. There's some companies get this idea that these kids are the change makers within organizations, and some don't. Specright gets it. And their investment, I know in universities, not just Clemson, but others here in the U.S. And even internationally. There's some great programs doing exciting stuff in packaging education internationally.
We appreciate your partnership, Greg.
One last thing I'd love to talk about, because I really was blown away by it. So Laura mentioned in your title about the helmet technology, and I think it was you that said it when I was touring, which I'd never had gotten before. It's like, you think about it's probably the most critical, important packaging there is.
Yeah.
Right? So
what's the helmet program?
Yeah, I'll let Greg tell you a little
bit. So this is a collaborative effort between packaging science and bioengineering, where if you strip down a football helmet to the basic principles of it's a package. It's a package for what I call the most valuable product on the planet, the human head. And so, it receives shock inputs. It needs to dissipate energy. It needs to absorb energy. And so we've had now a 10-year run of graduating, of conducting research and graduating students, publishing papers in this area of protective headgear.
Wow.
Packaging.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's critical protective packaging.
That's right.
Greg, getting back to, what you said about the partnership, the fun thing for me, I've been here 7 years and in the field of packaging now, I consider myself an honorary member of this community. It's been amazing to see the transition away from packaging engineers where specs were a problem for them. They were a pain for them. Now I see spec management on their resume. That is something I've seen change, from, oh my gosh, I spent my first job chasing data to now, oh, I know how to implement a spec system. I know how to work with my suppliers using the spec first approach. Like, we're seeing the change. And so I just want to say thank you. I'm so glad, Matthew always talks about let people make amazing things. Let these packaging students that have so much to bring, let's unleash them on the problems and not give them, a pain to deal with. So I feel like we're on our way. There's still a lot of work to go, but thank you for joining us, Greg, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
Excellent. Thank you, guys.
With you.
Yes.
Again, my favorite segment of the week, Off the Shelf with Matt Dingee. Matt, how you doing, and what do you have for me today?
Good, doing well. So today I am bringing forward something from 1981, and it is a concentrated Prell shampoo tube. And the box, the carton that it comes in you can see here is calling out a new snap cap. So it's a concentrated shampoo, and it has a snap cap versus a screw cap, which is the previous generation. So again, the convenience and the utility kind of coming together with a concentrated shampoo in a small tube. And so that need for kind of a new innovation of a snap cap and kind of calling that out. And I'll put it here in the tube inside the carton, just to get what it looked like.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's for sure. Definitely a retro view from the logoing to the style. I saw behind the bottle itself in the folding carton. Is that foil stamping, or is that just a print that really makes that silver pop? It's obviously to make it look good.
It looks like it very well could be foil stamping.
Yeah,
it's pretty. It's definitely, I would say, a little more enhanced than just a print. And it's got actually like
I wonder at the time that I was.
Yeah.
It's got a little what?
It's got a little structure to kind of hold the tube up, kind of at that angle as you saw it slid in there as well. So it's got a little architecture, not to just let it kind of stay flat, but it actually kind of props the tube up on the panel as well.
Yeah, it looks like kind of high value. It's interesting in 81 if that was a new product they're rolling out, trying to enhance it, or that's just the way packaging was back in 81, where everything was kind of high value. Today it'd be for shampoo, you wouldn't typically see a foil stamped folding carton on top of a bottle. So that's a very fancy, maybe it was normal at the time, type of packaging presentation, but definitely one that looks cool from a retro perspective. Definitely looks like an 80s type product. And I love, Matt, if you'd share just a few thoughts on the collection, and obviously I'm excited about the collection and doing this every week, but share a little bit more about the collection would be great.
Yeah, so the collection is Michigan State New Product Works collection in East Lansing, Michigan, and it is comprised of 150,000 packages across categories, as you just saw: personal care, health, beauty, household, food, beverage, pet, and baby, and comprises packages from all over the world of various products and packages that have launched and are for use for inspiration, design, and data collection.
Yeah, and if you want a chance to have a retro period of going back to the area, it's a good spot to go see. So thanks, Matt. Love this segment.
Sounds good. Thank you.